right. Well,
Hello. Hello.
last week we had a pretty insane letter.
OMG, our boy Tony.
Right. That was pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just checking our microphone, which still isn't working.
Sorry
It's
about that.
unfortunate, but we'll get that fixed eventually.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't listen to us for the quality of our sound, but for the content that comes out of our mouths, like our
Mm.
crazy ass letter.
That was nuts.
It
I'm
was like the
jealous.
feedback we got was just so funny. People are like, that's a lot to unpack. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit, where do I even begin? Like,
People, for once, didn't really even have anything to say about it other than it was nuts.
whoa.
Yeah.
So if you haven't listened, go back and listen to it because it's insane. We have another one that we're going to talk about today.
That one, by the way, was called Sexy Swinger Family something.
Yeah. It was, again, it was a lot going on.
Yeah.
So you definitely have to go listen to it. This letter came in. It's called Fantasy versus Reality.
Ooh.
You can send your letters, by the way, to Jesse and Jenna's Messy Podcast at gmail.com. Hey, Jesse and Jenna.
Hi.
This isn't as insane as your last letter,
Ha, see? Told
but
you.
I still hope you have some great advice as I'm feeling like shit about it. Oh,
Mm.
well, we don't want you to feel like shit. My husband and I have always been great. During our dating period and throughout our 5-year marriage, sex has been a huge part of our relationship. Good.
As it should be.
My husband particularly likes fantasies.
Okay.
He'll phone me up from the condo garage saying I'll be upstairs in 4 minutes and I've got a great scene for us to play.
Aw.
Sometimes he'll get an idea from porn like most men do. I feel like sometimes men just have like a constant porn
Loop.
you know? Sometimes he'll get an idea from porn or he'll name a Hollywood couple whom we'll fantasize aloud about during sex.
Oh. Well, that's okay. Everybody's got a hall pass when it comes to celebrities.
Yeah, but like having sex and calling different names out, that's interesting.
Hmm.
Anyways,
Freaky.
but again, nothing really shocks us
Hmm.
anymore. But now, approaching 36, I'm thinking that it's time we discuss starting a family instead. I feel you, girl. I'm 35. When I told him this, he went into a dark mood for several days. Then suddenly, instead of playing fantasy games, he insisted we talk about real people we know. He asked me if I have any sexual fantasies about people we know. For example, he mentioned a college professor I once said I had been hot for when I was in his class.
Oh.
I was uncomfortable as he sounded so serious about this. So he went first, telling me about his fantasy about a neighbor in our building he occasionally sees in the elevator or
Oh,
lobby.
here we go.
I felt sick. She's late 20s, slim, and hot as fuck.
Mhm.
She's also smart with a good job and a tennis player. And then in brackets, she says his fantasy included comments on her clinging tennis dress. I just walked away. We haven't discussed it since, but he's still distant with me, and there's been no sex for a week.
Wow.
Is my husband addicted to sexual fantasies? What do I do before this tears us apart? Cheers, fantasy versus reality.
Well, this is a new one for us. Interesting, because she's on board. Like, normally we get letters where she would disagree with the fantasies or she's not into it. It's not that. She's fine with the fantasies. She just wants to talk about their future.
Well, I think she said she says, but now I'm thinking that it's time we start discussing a family. So I think she's wanting to shift from having this hypersexual marriage to like, okay, like let's kind of change the flow of it now.
Right.
Like, let's work on having a family. And maybe in that case, we can't do all these sexy fantasy things anymore,
Sounds
which
like, yeah.
shocks him. I want to know, one, did you guys have a discussion about starting a family before you get married?
Yes, because you'd think that would be a conversation that came up in dating.
And although men aren't always bright, they're smart enough to know that at a certain age, it gets harder and harder to have children.
Yeah. And
So, yeah. So if you guys had that discussion, you should probably be at the same point in that time, like in that marriage.
I'm worried they didn't, because it's weird to me that he got so upset and shut down for 3 days.
It reminds me of taking away a kid's favorite toy, though.
Well, because the thought of kids like turned him right off. Or
Right,
something.
like you can't play with this anymore.
But she didn't say that.
No, but he's acting like that.
Mm.
You know, where it's like, okay, shit, all of a sudden, all of my fantasies and everything I've dreamt our marriage is going to look like and be like is now changing, and I'm not comfortable with that. So I'm going to withdraw completely.
And maybe he read between the lines of her being like, well, that's fun, but we should talk about having kids. And he's like, oh, she's not into this anymore.
I think that you need to look at your marriage first and wonder if there's something going on there.
Mm.
Like, are you not communicating and instead just having sex to fix your problems?
then you don't want to bring a kid into that.
Right, which sounds like a perfect world, but when it comes to dealing with real issues like starting a family, now you've hit this roadblock because you guys don't know how to communicate properly about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just remembering this thing. I don't even know if I should tell this story.
Well, you can't dip your toe in and not go all the way in.
Well, okay. I hope my mom's not listening to this. When I was in a relationship for a really long time, near the end when things were really falling apart and we were like trying to save it, we had a storage unit at one of those places. Yeah, you know where this is going. So one day we were there like putting stuff in the storage unit and my ex was like, I turned around and his pants were down. And I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just trying to spice it up a little. And because anybody could have come in. And at first I was like, no, we're not doing this here. Like I was totally, what's her name from Modern Family.
Right.
And, but then we did. And it was fine. But I don't know, like, so I don't remember where I was going with this story, but sometimes in relationships, like he was trying to be the fun one and I was totally ready to shut it down. Like, no, we're not doing that. And you have to be open to those things.
Yeah, but at the same time too, if he whipped down his pants all the time, wherever you went, it loses its luster.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't become spontaneous. So maybe she's starting to grow out of the fantasies. Or maybe you were never even really into them at the beginning. You just did them because they made him happy and it made your sex life a little bit more spicier. But in the end now you're like, no, I want to have kind of a bit of a more tame focus on children. Like we can't be running around in costumes and having sex in the middle of the day when we have children running around the house. Maybe you can. I don't know. I don't have kids.
You know, when you put it that way, I see how it get old fast.
Right.
Like to imagine you're working on your computer and she gets this text, come upstairs, I have a scene for us to do. I'd be like, again?
Yeah. I don't think he has an issue with sexual fantasies unless it starts getting in the way of his life. So unless he stops coming like home until 4 a.m. or like, you know, if it starts to become a nuisance, I think that he got, and you know, men, they can become very repetitive when it comes to sex, even if it's just like missionary, whatever. But sex, and I think in a marriage, sex can become repetitive and it just becomes the same old thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe he's just too stuck in his ways that he's scared of change at all. You know, even if you were having like a, let's say, quote unquote, normal sex life, and then all of a sudden you wanted to put fantasies in and he just went, no, no, no. Maybe it's just because he doesn't like change. A lot of men don't like change. They don't like changing up the routine of how things go, you know?
You know, again, back to my Grindr experience. One of the first things guys will say is top or bottom. And I'm like, all men have the facilities to do both. So why don't we just meet and see what
men
the vibe
are
is like?
multitaskers.
Well, not at the same time, but I mean like.
No, but I think it comes to like, they get their mind stuck on one thing.
That's what I mean.
And they don't like that.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Changing on the spot, multitasking, having to like switch things around.
Or just like not be sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I swear I've got a girl's brain.
Right.
I do.
I think our listener needs like, and all of our letters come down to one thing at the end.
Fucking.
And communicating. Communicating, being open and honest. At this point, I feel like you have more to lose by not sitting down and having a serious conversation about this than you do if you sit down and have a conversation, he gets upset and walks away. Do you know what I mean? Like you have more from not talking and being open and honest. You're going to lose more.
I wish she detailed some of the scenarios a bit more.
Why? Because you're just a pervert and you just want to know what her fantasies are?
Not just that, but I want to know if they're how weird they are. Because then we'd be like, yeah, like dump this guy. You know what I mean? If he
it sounds like he has normal fantasies that she participated in. Like he asked, like, what's your favorite fantasy? And he said, my neighbor who wears a tennis dress.
Yeah, okay.
That's, I mean,
it's pretty standard.
It's not like he was like, oh, like, you know.
Oh, well, maybe we should unpack that because now she's worried about him cheating with the neighbor. Sounds like.
I don't think, I don't think you should be worried about cheating with the neighbor because remember, it does take two people to sleep together and she probably doesn't like your husband at all because he's 16 years older than you.
Yeah.
Or older than her.
Yeah.
I would actually be kind of relieved that when I asked him about a fantasy, that's what came out. And it wasn't like, oh, you know, Clarice that I work with.
Good point. Because she can keep her eye on the neighbor. Right. Clarice, not so much. And also props that he even said anything. Some guys would be like, no, no, no.
And this reminds me of online dating too, with guys. Like you talk to a guy for a while and then maybe he sends you a sexy picture and then you send one back. And then you always talk about and you start sexting, but then it just becomes every day and it becomes all the time.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't become fun anymore. I think maybe she's just maturing and he's not.
It kind of sounds that way.
So you need to regroup. Every marriage, I think, goes through different phases because people naturally change, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's great, like every 5 years to come back together and go, okay, where are you at in this marriage? And cover it like financially, mentally, sexually, and be like, okay, like I'm kind of getting tired of fantasies. Like maybe if we could try something else a little bit more, or like, I don't know.
Or present your own fantasy. Be like, how about tonight we go to bed at 9 o'clock? Watch a little Golden Girls.
Make love missionary style for all 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know what you mean with the sexting too, because it's all hot and heavy at first, and then you're like, where do we go from here?
Do you have any sexual, like, I think everyone has like one sexual fantasy that kind of owns that realm in their brain. Ooh. What's your sexual fantasy?
I just lately want a man to lay on top of me for a few minutes. That's so much to ask.
I want a man to have sex with, just one person to have sex with and tour the world with.
I just want to feel the weight of a man.
Yeah, I just want to have sex with one person in 30 different countries.
Is that yours?
No, mine is actually very vanilla. Like,
we're very vanilla.
I know, but I don't consider myself vanilla in the bedroom. Like, I'm not like
vanilla's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I'm not like toys and whips and everything, but I do like to like have fun.
I don't think vanilla means you just lay there starfish though. Vanilla just means you're not into like
I don't have like a kink or a fetish that I'm aware of.
So then you're vanilla.
Yeah.
Me too.
But my fantasy is honestly, it's like vacation sex.
Okay.
Not necessarily like meeting a stranger on vacation. It's more like going on vacation with like a boyfriend and just having like that crazy wild, you know, hotel like sex.
I think it's because you're,
you know, like on the balcony or in the hot tub.
Oh, on a balcony. Like, that's hot.
That's kind of my main one is on a balcony.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think on vacation you're what's the word? I was going to use a big word.
Well, you're
uninhibited.
Like, and you're also in like honeymoon mode.
Yeah.
So you want to like feel like, yeah, I maybe I blame TV and movies for this, but you know, like you always picture that like romantic vacation where you and your lover like go away and just have like uninhibited sex everywhere.
Oh God, now I know where she's going. She wants to be kidnapped and kept in a castle for a year. That's what she wants.
But you know what I mean? Like that's kind of, I've always had that fantasy. I've never been on a vacation with a boyfriend.
Wow. Camping sex could be hot too. Like, I know it's gross, but
no, there's no showers.
I know, but like if there's other people around, you have to be really quiet.
Which is not fun for me.
Oh, well.
I'd rather wake the neighbors up than let them sleep.
Not if it's your family.
Right?
You know, this is a very 2020 fantasy. I would love to have like a boule de nuit experience where you meet someone in real life and you have that instant connection. Next thing you know, you're bent over the desk. Like, that doesn't happen anymore. Is that
your fantasy?
I think it is one, yeah. Like, just a real life connection, not a planned hookup or like, let's talk on an app.
Like, if you had to like jack off with nothing, just your mind, what would you picture in your head?
Oh, then I usually think about trainers at the gym that I like. I'm not joking.
Really?
And it changes. My gym crush trainers change. I think it's like my time of the month or something, but it's always a different one. You know, the one I used to like isn't there anymore.
Right.
Sad.
So there, have a good sit down.
We just had to talk about our own fantasies.
Right.
So actually, we're on board with your husband.
Do you have a fantasy about having sex with two podcasters?
Don't tempt them. We got a letter once from that guy. Do you remember?
I don't have to repeat it. You've repeated it many times.
Human centipede.
Yeah, no, I don't want that. No,
me neither.
No, I don't want none of that. But yeah, just have a conversation. I think you guys just kind of are maybe heading in two different directions. And I'm not saying that you can't get back on the same path. It's just maybe you need to like sit down and talk about. And if he's resistant to talking about this and having an open discussion, then maybe you need to rethink your marriage.
Or she mentioned open, rethink an open marriage.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're really not into these fantasies.
But don't do anything that makes yourself uncomfortable.
No.
Fuck that shit.
But I think sometimes in life there's things that surprise you, and maybe this woman would be into an open, like have his little play thing on the side.
I don't know.
Doesn't sound like
not if she wants to start a family.
And not if she's jealous about the neighbor already.
Right, and she wants to start a family. I don't think she's jealous of the neighbor.
Not jealous, wrong word.
I know what you mean.
Threatened.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
So.
I'm starving.
All right. Well, send your lessers. Send your lessers.
And we're not even drinking. Look, it's water. We can prove it.
Yeah, chug it. Prove it to everyone.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I could do that with vodka too.
Right, I know. Send your letters to Jesse and Jenna's messypodcast@gmail.com.
I found Pink Whitney, finally.
Fuck.
It's good.
It's just, get drunk off 2 bottles.
Well, no, what I do is I do a double. I put 2 shots in a little tumbler and then fill the rest with soda, which is what you told me to do.
Yeah.
And it's great.
But get drunk off of it and tell me how you feel in the morning.
Well, you were drinking it straight. Oh my God.
Oh, we have mixed some soda in once in a while.
Once in a while.
I don't know. Like, I can't even look at the stuff anymore.
Yeah.
So if you want to drink next week on the podcast, feel free to bring
my Pink Whitney. Okay.
Yeah, Jesse will end up topless by the end of it.
Woo! We'll get
All right.
some downloads.
Cheers.